Hi, this is Jeff at Slavens Racing. This video is about front axle installation. This is a KTM 300XC, but it applies to it's almost the same procedure on most bikes. All KTMs are this way. So what I see all the time is that people got their front forks bound up by installing the axle or the front wheel incorrectly. And I'm making this video because a customer was in the store recently complaining about his front forks feeling sticky when he pushed on them in the garage and harsh when he was on the trail. And I knew what he had in his forks for valving and springs, and I knew that he shouldn't have that type of a ride experience. So I was asking him about it, a few questions about it, and he told me he just recently installed a new front tire. So I asked him about that, about how he installed the axle, and I went over the procedure with him. He swore up and down that everything was just perfect. So I said, go get your bike. So he went home and got it, came back. First thing I saw was the problem. So if you look at this carefully here, so the axle is steel, it's a different color. You can see the steel axle right here. And then you get the lighter colored aluminum cap. So if you can see that steel axle showing like that, the fork is bound up. The fork is in too far that direction. So what happens, and the way that happens is the guys, when they go to tighten the axle, they snug down one of these bolts, tighten the axle nut on the opposite side, then they don't come back here and fix the problem over here, and that is to release the bolt and recenter the fork on the axle. So I'm going to loosen this up. Yep, you can see it just popped over on its own. So you can imagine what kind of pressure that was putting on that fork, the side pressure. Fork was totally bound up, and that makes that creates that harshness and stickiness. So to back up here, what you need to do when you're installing your front wheel is make sure that the dropouts here, or the lugs, that the hole in there that the axle slides through is clean and polished. You can even lubricate it a little bit if you wish. But you should, before you put the front wheel on, you should slide the axle through and make sure it slides in there easily. If it doesn't, polish it with some light, with some fine, like 320 or something, emery cloth, or some Scotch-Brite. Polish it to where the axle slides through both sides very easily. That's the first step. Then put the wheel up there, slide the axle in. The axle should just slide right in. You should not have to beat on it with your hand or with a hammer or anything else. It should slide in. If it does not, stop. Because you've got something bound up and you're just making a mess at that point. You're going to, even if you polished this area, you're going to gouge it back up. So stop what you're doing, get it to slide through easily. So then once you've got the axle all the way through and the axle nut on and spun on all the way but not tightened, then you need to tighten just one of these bolts, then go over to the other side, tighten the axle nut. You can look up the torque specs in your manual, and then at that point the axle nut is bottomed out into the axle, and so this part's done. So then you can tighten these two bolts, because this side will be complete at that point. Then when you get back onto this side, then you loosen this nut up, or this bolt up, excuse me, and you can use, I always want to check it like this first, see if it will move, which this one moves very easily. And then take the bike off its stand, hold the front brake on, and push the forks up and down a few times. Push them down deep into the travel, and that will center this. And then while you've still got it sitting there, or you can put it back up on the stand, you can tighten these two back down. And don't get carried away tightening these things. Look up the torque spec if you don't have a good feel for those kind of things. Because if you over tighten these, one thing, you can strip it out. The other thing is you'll just distort this whole piece to where the hole's not even round anymore. I've seen that. So be careful how you do that. This is very important on how your forks will work. That's all for now.